Truth is, I thought it mattered. I thought that
money
mattered. But does it bollocks? Not compared to how people matter.
Welcome, Mention and other fine folks, to the Sunday Dispatch of the Black Letter, where we contemplate thoughts worth thinking as we try to navigate through the upside-down, topsy-turvy world we find ourselves in, seeking greener pastures on the other side, hopefully coming out healthier, wealthier, and wiser. Good morning, it's Monday. Today we're going to take a look at the markets, of course, and also primarily Bitcoin. Some good news and some simple steps to take to protect your Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Worth reminding, especially as the price of Bitcoin goes up, and if you're holding a modest amount, you might want to consider protecting it. Let's look at the 300 banks in Germany here charging negative interest rates, which is interesting too, and we expected this to happen at some point. So first up from Bitcoin.com, 300 banks in Germany charge negative interest rates, including Deutsche Bank, Commerzbank, and ING. Banks in Germany have been increasingly passing on the burden of negative interest rates to their clients after the European Central Bank adopted a negative interest rate policy. After lowering one of its key interest rates into negative territory in June 2014, the ECB then lowered the deposit facility rate incrementally until it reached the current rate of 0.5% negative in September of 2019. And currently, more than 300 financial institutions charge some of their customers negative interest rate, which means I wouldn't be keeping much money in my bank account. Honestly, I would probably be putting my savings into Bitcoin at this stage, most likely. I mean, you could lose a lot more than, a negative 0.5% in a year, but at the same time, it's likely that as Bitcoin continues to improve, that the volatility starts to lessen. Anyway, it puts folks in a difficult spot. Thankfully, it only applies to those with quite a substantial amount of savings. Each bank sets its own terms regarding which accounts are charged negative interest rates, with the most common type of accounts being those with balances above 100,000 euros, which is about $118,000. Most banks also apply negative interest rates to new accounts, as German law requires customers' consent for imposing negative interest rates on existing accounts. So there is that one small blessing, I guess. But, what do you do if you have $100,000 in the bank? I guess you have to deal with it. You're losing, about $500 a year. I don't know. I would keep, obviously, my amount under $100,000. Thankfully, or perhaps not, but that's not a problem I have to be concerned with. A, I don't have that kind of money in a savings account, and B, I don't live in Germany or European Union. But it's interesting to see, because if we ever get negative interest rates here, that's a potential. That's something we might have to look at and how to protect ourselves from. So very challenging times. I don't think we've ever had this situation before. Okay, if you've been collecting some Bitcoin and cryptocurrency over the years, hopefully by now you figured out how to protect it. But I thought this would be a review at the very least. And for those of you new to the cryptocurrency space, it's something to be thinking about, especially as Bitcoin becomes more valuable. Simple steps to keep your crypto safe. Being your own bank doesn't have to be hard. Here's a few hints on how to do it right. And generally, overall, I agree with this particular set of recommendations. Use paper wallet or a hardware wallet. Personally, I'm a fan of a paper wallet over a hardware wallet. Hardware wallet, I don't see a huge benefit between a hardware wallet and a software wallet. So just as a reminder, hardware wallet is something that is usually used on a USB drive that's not attached to the internet all the time. However, you are then relying on the code written by others. So whereas paper, of course, we all know how that works. The problem with paper, on the other hand, is that it degrades over time. So you need to make backup copies, keep them safe and secure. And of course, if you lose that paper, then you're in real trouble. But you could also, I suppose, scan that piece of paper and keep it in a cloud drive somehow, especially if you've encrypted it ahead of time. And then, of course, that brings in also passwords that you have to remember and store. So it's not easy, but it's certainly something to be thinking about, especially if you have, a reasonable amount of cryptocurrency. A paper crypto wallet is essentially a piece of paper containing a printed out crypto address and its private key in the form of QR codes generated through paper wallet websites. A hardware wallet is another sophisticated method to store crypto, isolating user private keys from the internet by keeping them offline in a USB-connected device. And common ones they recommend here, or at least identify as Trezor and Ledger. So if you're interested, you could have a look at those. probably looking at least, close to $100 or so in order to get one of these. Two-factor authentication, of course, is important. So check whether your two-factor authentication verification is on. Don't ignore a key additional layer of security by forgetting to turn on two-factor authentication or 2FA. In the security settings of your wallet account, 2FA sends an additional password request to your phone or email every time you log into your wallet. Never share your private keys. Don't ever give your private keys or a seed phrase to anyone. Of course, private keys are noticeable on a paper wallet especially, but in the software wallet, your private keys are generated from a seed phrase, and so that's important that you don't let that seed phrase get out of your control. Be sure the recipient wallet is correct. Of course, this is important too. Always check a recipient address before proceeding with a transaction. A simple one-letter mistake could direct your transaction to another wallet. And of course, these are irreversible transactions. So you want to double check where you're sending your money every time you do it. Don't fall for giveaway scams. Seen a lot of these on YouTube. Don't ever fall for offers sounding like send us Bitcoin and get double your Bitcoin back. That's not going to happen. So be prepared for that. You'll see that, and just don't fall for it. 6, use smaller transactions and different exchanges. Don't send a bunch of crypto in one single transaction when you need to buy or sell crypto on a crypto exchange. If you need to transact a big amount of money in crypto, better break it up into multiple transactions to be sure that an exchange is working properly. And I think that's solid advice as well. Or certainly at least do a test transaction first to see how it goes. Bitcoin surge escalates as market recognizes it's superior to gold as a store of value. Bitcoin's current stage has led to one expert to claim the market recognizes Bitcoin as superior to gold as a store of value. On Friday, JP Morgan stated even a modest crowding out of gold as an alternative currency over the long term would imply doubling or tripling of the Bitcoin price. The investment bank and financial services company added the potential long-term upside for Bitcoin is considerable as it competes more intensely with gold as an alternative currency. We believe, given that millennials would become over time a more important component of investors' universe. Speaking to express.co.uk, Bitcoin pioneer Matt Kaiser claimed the money is flowing out of gold and into Bitcoin by institutions, and I think that certainly could be happening. And I think Bitcoin's just going to continue to improve in value, as we've noticed. Could be heading to 20,000 here by the end of the year, and perhaps as much as 100,000 next year. That's my sort of estimate. And there you have it, folks. So some good news for Bitcoin. Also need to keep it safe. And with that, it's a Monday, so let's see how the markets are doing. I think there was some good news here on Moderna vaccine, so probably the markets are going to be boosted on that. Let's have a look-see. Okay, so S&P 500 up 0.91%, NASDAQ down negative 0.26%, and the Dow Jones up 1.5%, and the Russell 2000 up 2%. So it looks like there's a bit of a rotation still happening out of growth stocks into more of conservative value stocks. I'm not sure, but that's what that would seem to indicate. It looks like we're at a new yearly high here, I think. Let's take a look at that. So indeed, we are making a new high here. So obviously that's bullish. It could head to 4,500 now, perhaps potentially by the end of the year. But I think early next year in the first quarter or so, there's likely to be this correction that will take us down probably 60-80%. I would imagine at some point by the time it's all ended, and that could take maybe 18 months to 2 years, who knows. All right, let's take a look at gold. Gold not doing much at all. You can see here up 29% over the past year, but still sort of drifting a little bit lower as it consolidates. And I think come the new year, or when the stock market really starts to take a dive and correct, that's when we'll see gold and silver start to take off. And there's silver also hanging around the 24.55 handle, 44% up for the year. So doing well, but also still sort of consolidating. Okay, on the cryptocurrency coin market cap here, we have a 2.1% increase over the past 24 hours at 474 billion market cap, 6,003 coins for you to ignore, and Bitcoin dominance almost at 64%. It just continues to do well. You can see most of the top 10 coins here are up, and Litecoin up substantially for some reason, and Bitcoin Cash also up a bit, XRP now at 28 cents, so it's making a little bit of a move. And Bitcoin, of course, now coming on $16,402, looking at 16.5 here in no time. Folks are calling for a correction. Now, of course, we have to be aware that Bitcoin being a nascent asset, it has had 30-40% drops periodically. So that's nothing to be concerned about if it happens. I'm just going to continue to hold through that. I'm very bullish on Bitcoin long term and see great potential with it. So there you have it, folks. Bitcoin doing well, another up day. So we're looking at the German banks, 300 of them, which are offering now negative interest rates to their customers, which is quite unusual and interesting. We haven't seen that before, at least I haven't in my lifetime. So I thought an interesting question for the online oracle, the 8-ball economist, our trusty sidekick, is are negative interest rates coming to the US by the end of 2021? And I say that end of 2021 because I think if they don't come then, by then we'll probably start seeing inflation, at least to some degree. And then, of course, in an inflationary environment, negative interest rates just don't make any sense. In fact, extremely punitive. So anyway, let's see what the online oracle seems to suggest from that. Cannot predict now. Okay, well, perhaps that's asking it to see too far into the future. Some folks are thinking there will be negative interest rates in the US. I'm not so sure about that, but who knows? You know, we live in such fluid times. Everything is up for grabs at the moment. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate you. Hope you're having a great start to your week. Remember to pay down debt, squirrel away some savings, remain healthy and vigilant under the current health concerns, health crisis we're still in. And remember, above all else, dum spiro, spero.